That's right, you hear the canned rock music. You know that means one thing. It is time for Orange and Blue today. It is Cecil Lammey. Hope to be joined pretty soon by Andrew Mason. I'll turn this rock music down. There you go. I'm never one to turn it down. Not like Vic Fangio, right? If it's too loud, you're too old. Well, you just got to get to talking and get to talking about this Broncos team and the game that was flexed out of Sunday Night Football. There you go. Like, that's just the way it's going to be. They're going to be flexed out. It's a discussion that we had yesterday on the program. We were like, I wonder if they're going to get flexed. And they were kind of running out of time, and Mace had the timeline, and they needed to do it yesterday. And they did do it yesterday, but we didn't hear about it until about 6:00 at night. So when we got done with the show at 4, it was like, oh, I guess the Chiefs are that big of a draw that the NFL would say, you know what? We don't want to see the Broncos in prime time, but we want to see the Chiefs. The Chiefs will make the needle move. And then they thought, the Broncos are so bad. It doesn't matter if the Chiefs are Super Bowl favorites. It doesn't matter if the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. It doesn't matter if Pat Mahomes is a superstar. The Broncos' stench is so bad that the NFL did not want to have the Denver Broncos in prime time. So that game against Kansas City was flexed out. And as Paul says, good afternoon. Broncos stink, but you both ease the pain. And that's what we're here for, right? Because it's a pain in the neck, the keister, the backside, whatever you want to say. It's certainly a pain when you look at this situation with the Denver Broncos. It's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any easier. The press conferences, I heard Troy Rank describe it like it's just like depressing now. Like the whole press conference thing is like depressing. It's a depressing moment because you know Nathaniel Hackett is done. You know that Nathaniel Hackett isn't going to be the coach next year. And he's up there trying to talk about like, we're turning around. Like, you're not turning anything around, buddy. If you're turning anything around, it's the lease on your house. I don't know. Turn anything around, it's the moving truck, right? U-Haul. You're turning around the U-Haul to your home. And again, nobody should be happy about this, okay? But this is where it's at. And that's why, to me, I don't care about, you're worried about your reputation. You're Walmart, okay? You ravaged communities for years, not caring about the feelings of anybody. Like, you should be doing that as well, in addition to what you see here for the Denver Broncos. So yeah, like it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad out there. And no, Nate, I did not get an invitation to the Russell Wilson birthday bash, which is fine. I understand that's what a lot of people are talking about today. Like, oh, it's Russell Wilson birthday bash, and half the team showed up and half the team did it. And Tom Pelissero and Mike Garafolo reported, like, talking about the rumors. David, by the way, Christmas is when you might get it. You can interview coaches 2 weeks within the end of your season. So that means look out then. Like, that would be the time. The Rams game against the Broncos, which is awful, by the way, because the Rams stink to high heaven. They got their Super Bowl and they sacrificed everything to do it. So yeah, they stink to high heaven, but my God, are things bad for this team. So maybe around Christmas, that will be the time. But you know, it's November 30th. You're wasting every moment. What's Christmas? 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks and change. You're wasting every single day. If Nathaniel Hackett is your head coach, you're wasting time. Tomorrow, is Nathaniel Hackett the head coach? You're wasting time. Sunday, on the road against the Ravens, is Nathaniel Hackett your coach? You're wasting time. In a league where you don't have time, in a league where teams can turn it around quickly, unless you're an absolute embarrassment, an absolute travesty, as you see with the Denver Broncos, you can turn things around quickly if you understand that there is no time for you to wait. Like, Nathaniel Hackett's not going to save his job. And if he's not going to save his job, be damn your reputation. You may not get coaches to come here because you have a quick trigger finger. It's historically the worst it's ever been. So if you're worried about your reputation having a quick finger, you're worried about the wrong thing. You're turning off the entire fan base. Other than the diehard Broncos fans, or there's that one Broncos fan. He's actually pretty popular, so I won't name him. But he loves the Broncos because of their colors, orange and blue. Like, didn't grow up here or nothing, but he's a famous Broncos fan who just really liked the colors. Even that moron, like, is probably turning on this team. You're losing the fan base. And it didn't happen overnight. I'm not going to call Denver fair weather fans. I don't think they are, but it's been 6 years. It's been 6 years of crap that's gotten worse. Like the Broncos suck right now. The Broncos with Trevor Siemian, they were, they're mediocre. They're all right. They wasted that defense, wasted time not figuring out the Packs couldn't play or wasn't smart enough or whatever, allegedly, or whatever I have to say. I still remember when my old boss at the Fan called me. I was at the Combine. I think it was on with Schlereth and Evans. I'm very excitable when it comes to football. So I'm going to call Paxton Lynch a moron on the air. And I got a call after that, and it's like, hey, can you not call people morons? I was like, okay, fine. Don't want to make it personal, but if you're not smart enough, then you're not smart enough, whatever. Just want to tell the truth. But that's where you're losing the fans. Like this much maligned fan base, they've been patient. They've been with you, and they've heard you spin things. It's going to be better with Vic Fangio. And Vance Joseph's the leader of men. And Case Keenum, he's just, man, in this system, and he can take off in Minnesota Miracle. And Joe Flacco's in his prime. They've listened to all your spin. Your spin is now done. They're not listening to any more. So whereas the ownership group may be worried about the reputation, I say, be damn that. You're setting a standard. The standard here right now, Nathaniel Hackett is the coach today. That means your standard is acceptable. This is acceptable. That's fine because, hey, and we don't want a reputation. Go get the reputation. So the next guy's like, you know what? I better win. You want that. You want to be the guy that's sitting at the bar that you kind of don't know if you want to start a fight with, right? You want to be that guy. You don't want to be the guy that you can push around. You don't want to be that guy that you're going to have a job. Like, I can suck for 3 years like Vic Fangio, or 2 years like Vance Joseph. And VJ had no power, was completely stripped of any sort of power as a head coach. Nathaniel Hackett feels bad when he makes a suggestion through his wording and an answer to DMAC that Russell Wilson could possibly one day, potentially, maybe in the right instance, in a blue moon on the third Thursday of the month, he could be benched. And then Hackett had to come back and re-answer the question and feels bad about what he said. That's stupid. Your coach doesn't have a spine. Okay? Happy Fun Baby Star. He's the nicest guy ever. It doesn't matter. He's worried that he suggested that there would be a possibility that Russell Wilson would get benched when Russell Wilson is playing the worst football of his career. How does that make any sense? Look at what Robert Saleh did. And by all means, I am a Robert Saleh fan with the Jets. Have been. I don't know him. I know some people on his staff, but I don't know him. And I do know this, and I did try to get message to him that there's that pressure there to win. And it was pressure initially with Zach Wilson because there was maybe a Wilson for Wilson deal with Seattle, like Russell Wilson for Zach Wilson. And you had a GM and a coach who wanted to win in different ways. And the GM wanted to prove that he's right. Because remember, the egos in the front office are much larger than the egos on the field. The egos on the field, these guys are alphas. Like, yep. And the guys in the front office who couldn't play, most of them, those guys, they're even more egotistical. So the GM wants to prove that Zach Wilson is the guy. And what does Robert Saleh do? He benches his guy, going against his GM's wishes. Why? Because he wants to win. Today, Nathaniel Hackett is worried about hurting Russell Wilson's feelings because he suggested that he possibly might be benched one day on the third Thursday of the month under a blue moon. Andrew Mason joins us now. Hi, Mace. You're in the NFL Network part, aren't you?
I am. Yes. Didn't want to go outside today. Actually, it was sort of a kind of. I was listening to some interviews. I was from the locker room really quick, so I didn't have time to get upstairs and get outside. So here I am.
This is better. Your keister's not freezing. Like, it's good, man.
If anything, the keisters are hot. Right? I mean, that's what happens
under the lights. Yeah.
Well, it should be when you're 3-8. The keisters are hot, but I mean, the bottom, like you were talking about. I mean, look, Russell Wilson's bottom third of the league, and at most positions. And with a quarterback that didn't have a huge contract, if you were talking about a player who was at the bottom third of the league, basically across the board in almost every metric, you would be talking about the player getting benched, right? I mean, it's a performance-based business, as we hear quite often. And that's why certainly the exchange there between DMAC and Nathaniel Hackett. And the way D-Mac phrased it, I thought was very cagey on his part, talking about, to make the team better.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So-
D-Mac said he should have phrased it differently. I thought he should have phrased it differently. Like, don't put a timestamp on it. Because these guys will use anything to get out of it. But the fact that Nathaniel Hackett's backtracking, dude, like, come on. We all know what you meant, Hackett. And we all know you're the nicest guy ever. But either way, they got flexed, Mace. Let's talk about that, because you had brought it up yesterday. Like, yesterday was the day they needed to flex it.
Yep.
They didn't when we were on the air. Thanks for that, Broncos, by the way. Probably did it on purpose. But they
stop
did it,
Cecil.
They did it after
that wasn't
the show.
them. That was you should talk to NBC and the NFL about that one.
Well, they did it after our show.
Yeah, the Broncos don't have anything to do with the timing on that one. Let's keep it reasonable here. But yeah, it really wasn't a surprise. And I mean, I had mentioned Chargers Dolphins as one that was possible, because you knew they were going to protect some games. For example, like they already protected 49ers Bucks, because that's the Fox game, and you figured that CBS was going to look at Bills Jets and say, no, we're going to protect that one. But this one makes some sense. It makes some sense. But I mean, what does it say about the Broncos as I step on the little portable desk here? What does it say about the Broncos that NBC and the NFL had a primetime matchup involving a team that is, by the odds makers, the Super Bowl favorites, a team that has been to 4 consecutive conference championship games, 2 Super Bowls in that span, has the number 1 most marketable, most famous player in the league in Patrick Mahomes. That team, they decided, yeah, we're going to flex you out of Sunday Night Football because your opponent is so bad. It's astounding to think that the Broncos have reached a point where they're so unwatchable. And I'm sure that there were like conversations at 345 Park Avenue in New York City where there were probably people who said, I don't want to see that team in primetime anymore. Right? Get somebody else. I just don't want to see that in our most prominent window for our product. I mean, Sunday Night Football, it's the number 1 show on television, not just number 1 sports show. It's the number 1 show on television. It has been for quite some time. So it's your biggest showpiece. So I can absolutely understand why the powers that be involved with both NBC and the NFL said, yeah, we don't want any part of it, even though it means sacrificing having one of our meal tickets, Patrick Mahomes, in primetime.
Super Bowl favorite, best team in the league, biggest superstar in the game. The Broncos stink so bad they took him off.
It's unimaginable, right? I mean, like you remember back in 2017 when the Patriots came in on Sunday Night Football, and the Broncos were what, halfway into an 8-game losing streak. They didn't get flexed then when the Patriots came in, and the game was a dog, or as an old term that used to be used in TV circles was to call a game like that a husky. Because it was a dog, right?
Yes, sheds all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not all dogs shed. There are some that don't now, but yeah, this is where you are. I mean, it's frankly, it's a humbling experience for people inside the Broncos organization, because getting flexed out. And it's not like they looked at this, it was a mediocre matchup, because sometimes you'll get flexed out because one team's bad, one team's mediocre. They chose to flex the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes out solely because you were so bad. If the Broncos were 5-6, that game would still be in primetime. But it's 3-8, and it's not just 3-8, it's an unwatchable 3-8. I mean, right. I think Charlie Weiss, who knows a thing or two about unwatchable football based on the teams that he was head coach of in college. I mean, coached the Kansas Jayhawks. They were unwatchable. Even Charlie Weiss is going on the radio and saying they're unwatchable, right? I mean, you've got everybody is taking shots. The Broncos are the national piñata at this point. Everybody is just rearing back and taking a swing.
Yep, and they're hitting. It's candy. Candy makes you dandy for everyone else not in this league. It's pretty bad, Mace. It's pretty bad. Okay, the topic of the day is the report. Mike Garafolo and Tom Pelissero, you know them as well. They're very good friends of mine. And I've known them for, as long as I've known you, right? Very, very good reporters, good, grounded. Their reports were called gossip today. I wouldn't call them gossip, and I say this with all due respect, Mace. They're kind of old. Like all the stuff they said was stuff that we've heard like a month ago. Now how much and all this to varying degrees. There is a segment, and I have to be careful when I say this, Mace, and you'll have to be careful responding to this, but whatever. There is a certain segment of people that want to go out of their way to tell us how much it's not Hackett's fault. I will say to that segment of people, I understand it might be part of your job, but I know some players who aren't very happy with Nathaniel Hackett. I also know some players, and I said this on the air, so I'll say it again. Like Brandon McManus said, I hope he gets another year. Like, so you have players that support him. You have players that don't support him. You have players that don't get down with Russell Wilson. And you have players that really want to get down with Russell Wilson, and they're not quite there yet. So let's cut through the rumblings and the rumors. And we have people in the Denver media breaking their arm, patting themselves on the back because they've been reporting that, yeah, everyone in Denver's known this. When Pelissero and Garofalo report it, it's like, yeah, all right, guys. We were talking about that a month ago.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that kind of hit another level today was the Mike Kliss tweet about the birthday party last night.
Right.
I mean, and that's what's taken this to another level of lunacy. Lunacy today. I mean, I did speak with at least one player who was at that party, and they were really upset that this has become a thing. They're like, if you get half the team to show up for anything on a Tuesday night in season, that's a great turnout, right? That's a positive, not a negative.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
And so I, like DJ Jones has already responded to Pro Football Talk about this on Twitter. I mean, I think there are some legitimate discussions to be had about what things are in the locker room right now. And the locker room is not a monolithic thing. Okay. You could have a 15-2 team going to the Super Bowl, and there are going to be some guys in that locker room who aren't happy about things.
Yeah. Should be me.
Yeah, exactly. I've never, in all my years, I've never been in a locker room where everyone was happy or everyone was mad. Okay?
Well, Brock wasn't happy on the way to Super Bowl 50 because he thought he should have never got benched. And I don't, that's his feelings. But like you bring it up, they won a flipping Super Bowl, and Brock Osweiler wasn't happy.
Right, and so that I think the fact that you have people that you have dissension and players aren't going to get along with everybody. Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a question of can you work well together? It's not about necessarily being social. It's can you work well together? I mean, I've seen some bad locker rooms over the years with the Broncos. I've seen some locker rooms that were torn apart. I actually say like on this one is much more together than I've seen for a lot of locker rooms of bad teams. Mm-hmm. So that's and that's me being, it's only the media period, but that's me. I mean, I was in there today when all the press conferences were going on. I didn't hear what Dalton and Russ and Justin said because I was in the locker room talking to people and trying to get the temperature there. And I think I do wonder if some of the stuff that's been said, I wonder if it's going to be a kind of thing that at least in the short term brings the team together. I would not be surprised at that. I would not be surprised. I'm not saying I think they're going to win. I would not be surprised if they play a little bit better than people expect on Sunday because they're definitely, there definitely did seem to be today something of a closing of the ranks.
Well, and I don't want to be the guy that always sides with Russell Wilson because anytime you say anything positive about Russell Wilson, then people will be like, you can make excuses. No, we're not. We're not making excuses for Russell. He needs to be better. He sucks right now.
I'm used to that. Like anytime if I said anything positive about Teddy Bridgewater last year, I got eviscerated.
You hate Drew Lock.
Anyway. Yeah. You know what? The problem is people want reporting that only affirms what they believe.
They want echo chambers.
Right. You and I don't do that. Right.
No.
And we're there. We're telling we're telling you what's going on here, right?
Right. So. Right. Telling you what's going on, and what's going on is this. This team's trying, man, and they're more together than even when Wade was kind of driving some division back in the day. I know he denied it, but he was. That team was split. That defense was like, we're doing everything. Those guys suck. This team isn't split like that. It could be, but it's not. And I guess that says something. And Mace, for me, not to side with Russell Wilson, as I remember what I was going to say, he's going to be here. So if you don't like him, go ahead and be vocal about it, because you won't be here either. They'll find a way to get you out of here and get someone in that will want to work with Russell Wilson. If it's really that bad, and I don't think it is for many of the players that I talk to, but like if someone really is that upset with Russell Wilson, then fine, speak up, because they'll gladly get rid of you. This is in the mode of who's going to be here. Yeah. That's when you rally. That's when you circle the wagons. Like, okay, yeah, this season sucks. Whatever, guys, we're here. Who's going to be here? Let's build this thing. Let's go.
Yeah, and the thing is, there are going to be some bonkers theories out there that fans are going to have, and even media is going to be spitballing about things like, well, if they did manage to cut him or trade him. I mean, shoot, we all kind of spitball things when we're discussing amongst ourselves, but the reality is Russell Wilson's going to be the quarterback of this team next year, right? I mean, you get beyond next year, then I think you can start to have some discussions as far as like if he hasn't turned it around and how much you're willing to eat contractually, etc. But the best way out of this is by getting Russell Wilson right. And so whatever happens in the next several weeks to several months here is going to be about, okay, how do we get Russell Wilson, if not all the way back to his prime production, to 90% of that? Can you at least get him to the middle tier? Or, if you're ranking the quarterbacks right now, like in QBR, he's 32nd of 35. Can you at least get him back to being like 10th to 15th, right? Or even 10th to 18th? Because if you're in that middle tier, you can still win with that if you've got things going. If you've got good things going on elsewhere on the roster, particularly on the defensive side. So
that's what
what's going to be.
I'd rather use my time and then utilize this show with you, Mace, just to be like, you can win with Russ if you get the best out of Russ. Now, how do you do that? And who's going to be here? Who are the players? What do you need to look for? That's much more interesting than fire Nathaniel Hackett. Like, that's already going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. And then it's, who do you bring in to fix that? I mean, are you looking for an offensive guru as a head coach, or are you simply looking for the best leader who then identifies the coordinator that can work with Russ? Are you looking for the leader who can be strong enough to say, no, we're doing it this way? Or dare I say, the leader who and one thing I think they will do is I think they will probably upgrade the backup quarterback next year. A leader who, if next year looks like this year for Russell Wilson and you can't get him right, a leader who says, yeah, we're going to go in a different direction. We're going to start the backup because, obviously right now, starting Josh Johnson or Brett Rippon, those aren't viable options, right?
And look at the backups that have done well this year. And I'm not just talking about Geno Smith. Look at Jacoby Brissett and what he's done. He's making himself some money. Now, the Mike White thing, I think people are getting a little ahead of themselves because we saw it last year. Like, oh my God, 4 touchdowns. Oh my God, 5 picks. So but look at the way other teams are making those decisions of like, hey, we're going with the other guy. And Brissett obviously filling in for Watson, but he's done a fantastic job.
Right. I mean, you start having a conversation about the Brissetts, the Sam Darnolds, the Baker Mayfields. And I know these names aren't going to really excite anybody, but if Russell Wilson continues to play at this level next year and you realize you're not going to get him right, then you owe it to the rest of the team to make a change. Realistically, again, with what you have, that's not happening this year. But
right.
If they don't upgrade backup quarterback next year, then I think that's team building malpractice.
Yes, very much so. All right, Mace. Hate to cut it short, but I have to go to Old Chicago tonight. We're at Lakewood. What is it? Union 6th, whatever. DenverFan.com/pizza. So yeah, come on out and say what's up if you can. Love to see everybody there. Any final thoughts for our viewers, Mace?
I mean, it's It's crazy times in Broncos country. That's what happens when you're 3-8 and staring down the barrel of a 6th consecutive losing season. But you know what? At least we're going to have a first-round pick to talk about. We're going to have plenty of stuff to talk about over the next few months. So it does feel, though, real quick, Cecil, before we go, it does feel very much like the next month or so here is simply prelude to what the meat of things is going to be around here. That's going to come in the offseason.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want to spend the next month losing my mind about Nathaniel Hackett. I'm just like, and you get it. And fortunately, like we're kind of on the same wavelength, Mace. We always have been, and I feel like I'm putting myself up on your level, but like, yeah, like you and I have always had the same idea about football. We share the same love of football.
Yeah,
and I don't want to fall into the hot take radio crap. Like I just want to talk about what's going on and how to make it better.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And then that's why this day is tough for me, man, because I'm not equipped to talk about birthday parties. I just want to talk ball.
Yeah, exactly. He's Andrew Mason. I'm Cecil Lammey. Nothing but the facts. Orange and blue today, 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time, Monday through Friday. Everyone out there, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned, and as always, stay frosty.